Hi, my name is Helena, and today I want to share my son's birth story. I'm going to tell this story from recall, and I do have some notes just as a reference. Everything started on Monday, 11th of March of this year, 2019. And that day I had my last midwife's appointment. We went there, we got checked, and everything was fine. I asked to get a sweep, and when she checked me internally, she said that my cervix was really not ripe yet, and I was only 1 centimeter dilated. At this point, I was very disappointed to hear this news, as I was very tired of being pregnant. I couldn't wait to meet my baby. At this point, I was very disappointed to hear this news, as I was really tired of being pregnant. I couldn't wait to meet my baby. I had been getting Braxton Hicks since I was 37 weeks. At this point, I was almost 41 weeks. I had just 2 days to go. And I had lost my mucus plug 2 weeks prior to this. So with all my disappointment, I went back home and I carried on my day as normal. I think around 4 o'clock I got some contractions. Probably they were still Braxton Hicks, I wasn't sure at this point. I ignored them and carried on and went to bed around 11 or 11:30, I cannot remember. Right as I got into bed, I had my first labor contraction. The contraction probably lasted about 1 minute or so, and then I had this huge urge to go to the bathroom, which was kind of weird to me as I had just gone before going to bed. I went to the bathroom, went back to bed, and half an hour later, same thing happened. I got another contraction and had to go to the bathroom right after. The same thing kept happening up to 2 o'clock in the morning, when after a contraction I went to the toilet, and before I actually peed, a whole gush of liquid came down, which was no pee, but it felt like I peed myself. So I knew at that point that my water had broken. I got very, very excited, since that meant that things are starting, my baby's gonna be here soon, yes. We were planning a home birth. At this point I called Ryan, I got him to come to the toilet with me. I told him my water broke, what do I do? And he's like, okay, well, wake up your mom and let her know. So I did that. My mom was staying here to help me with baby and everything else, as moms do. And then we called the hospital to let them know, because I was booked for a home birth, and as soon as you know that things are getting started, you have to let the hospital know, so they can notify the midwife that is on call at that point to know that she might have to come out for a delivery. So around 3:30 I got a call from the midwife saying that she would like to come and check me out. So she arrived around 4 or 4:30, I cannot fully remember, at which point I was having contractions pretty regularly, I think about every 4 to 5 minutes apart, and they were definitely painful. But what was yet more painful than the contractions was kidney pain that I was getting with each contraction. That made it very hard for me to find a comfortable position to labor in. I was planning to labor laying down to fully relax my body. That couldn't be done because of the kidney pain. It was just impossible. I could definitely handle the contraction pain if it were not for the kidney pain that was happening at the same time. The midwife came over. She confirmed that my water had gone just by checking the pad, which, by the way, every time I was going to the toilet, still after every single contraction, I had to pee, which was the weirdest thing. But every time I was going to the toilet, a whole gush of water was coming out. Like, it was not just leaking, it was like full on water, like in the movies kind of thing, which was impressive. I did not expect it to be this way. Around 7 in the morning, I tried to got to sleep for a little bit, which was very, very, very hard as I could not lay down. For the life of me, I couldn't be comfortable. I was very, very much in pain as soon as I lay down. So I kind of slept for like 20 minutes, and then I called my best friend to let her know. She rushed over, even though I told her it's very early, it's not gonna happen, you can go to work and come back after work, which I'm sure you still managed to get all the action. But she wanted to be here for everything, which is totally fine with me. So she came over and was hanging out with us. The whole day was very, very hard. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to sit down. I didn't want to lay down. All I wanted was to stand up and hug Ryan with every contraction, which, by the way, he was the hugest support. He was holding my hand through the whole thing. He was accompanying me to the toilet at this point because everything was really painful. Everything was super painful. Which obviously I expected it to be painful. I did not expect it, however, to be this painful so early on, and it was a very different kind of pain than I was expecting, as the pain was in my back. It was not contraction pain, so to say. It was, it was not even my bones, not my hips, not my lower back, it was on my kidneys, and it was horrible pain. Horrible, horrible, horrible pain. We kept going through the day, and I think in the late afternoon my contractions kind of stopped and the whole labor slowed down, which honestly I was very happy for because I couldn't take it. I really couldn't take it. I knew I was very, very early on in labor, and just thinking that I have so many more hours to go with such a pain, it was very hard on me. Around 9 o'clock, the midwife called us again to check up on us. We explained to her that things hadn't progressed much, and she said that if the next morning, which would have been Wednesday morning at this point, nothing had picked up yet, I had to go to the hospital to get induced, as I would have been over 24 hours since my water had broken. We said okay, we tried to go to sleep at night. None of us really could sleep. I think at this point I sent my mom to sleep because we had been awake for over 24 hours. Ryan had gotten some sleep in the morning. I had gotten non-sleep, my mom either, and I was like, I just rather you go to bed and then one of us be rested than just keep being like this, because it's not helpful nor healthy for anybody. 2 o'clock came along and my labor was completely stopped, so I called the midwife and I asked her to come and see me because I was a bit scared. She came in. I had a couple of contractions while she was here. She said, don't worry, I'm sure your labor will pick up before morning and you won't have to go to the hospital. The midwives were changing shift at 8 in the morning, so she said, I will just let the next midwife know what is happening, where you're at, and get her to give you a call as soon as she comes in. While that did not happen, she did never call me, and it was 9 o'clock. So we headed to the hospital. We arrived to the hospital around 10, and at that point my labor was completely stopped. I had no pain. I was happy. I was gonna get induced. Everything was gonna be fine, and I was content with the whole thing. They let me know that the doctor who would prescribe the induction drugs for me was in a C-section, and it would take a little bit of time before she could see me. So we waited and waited and waited and waited and waited and waited some more, which I did not have a problem with at that point. Now looking back, I wish I would have put more pressure on them to get things started quicker. However, that didn't happen, and at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, the 13th of March, um, I I got transferred to the labor room, and the induction process began. They put something in my cervix to soften it and get it to start opening, and we had to wait 6 more hours for that to make an effect. Around 10:30 at night, the midwife came in. That was half an hour before I had to get the oxytocin, and she offered to get an epidural. I did not want the epidural, as I wanted to have as natural of a labor as possible. So I said no, I would like to wait a few contractions and see if I can take them. However, if the pain is like yesterday night, I will definitely go on the epidural, because I didn't want to have that back pain, basically. I got into the oxytocin, which was, by the way, a big cycle, since they could not put the IV on my arms. They could not find the vein. I don't know exactly what was the problem, but it was a trial and error, which led me to be with my both hands like this, super in pain, because they tried both veins here, and they were all bruised. So that was not very comfortable. But that's what it was. I didn't really care about it, but obviously it did have kind of an impact on Ryan, who had no experienced labor before with anybody. Obviously, this is our first child, and he was quite shocked about the amount of pain I had been in and the whole process up to that point, and he was like, come on, she doesn't need this now. Anyways, that's what it was, so what can I do? They finally got a doctor to put the IV through. Contractions started right away, and they were every 3 minutes right away, and they were very painful, which was fine. I could handle them, except the kidney pain came back with them. I did not know why. I did not understand. Also, at this point, I had to go to the toilet again after every contraction, which was very weird, and the midwife started getting worried that I might have urine infection, because I had to pee so much so often. Not so much, it was not so much, but it was so often. It was every 3 minutes with every contraction. Also, during the whole day, my water kept flashing out like full blast, which was whatever. It was what it was. So after 4 contractions, I spoke to Ryan and I said, look, I know we wanted a natural birth. However, I'm at the very beginning. Like, I don't think I'm ever dilated yet. Nothing. I don't know how many more hours of this I have to go through. And it's really painful on my kidneys. I haven't slept for the last 2 days. And it's now midnight, which probably means that I won't sleep tonight either. So I would rather get the epidural and go to sleep for a little bit and have a better labor that way. And he's like, sure, whatever you want, no problem. We called the person to give me the epidural, and that, I mean, if you have gotten an epidural before, you probably know how it is. But if you haven't, yeah, that's a whole cycle. Up to that point, I had been in excruciating pain, but I had been able to cope with it. I did not scream, I did not cry, I had done none of this. I was literally taking in the pain, and yeah. Obviously, it was very uncomfortable and I was complaining about it, but I could take it. I was handling it. The guy put the needle in, and I'm not sure what he did. I don't know. It seemed like he shoot something up my spine, and that was the most painful thing I've ever experienced. So I screamed out of the top of my lungs, which obviously freaked out Ryan. Like, what the hell is going on? Freaked out the guy behind me who was doing the procedure. And he was like, what's happening? What's happening? Where do you feel the pain? And I'm like, sorry? What do you mean, where do I feel the pain? I feel the pain exactly where you just poke me. He's like, no, like, where do you feel the pain? I'm like, exactly where you just poked me. And then he kept discussing with me, but where is it? And I couldn't understand. I mean, you have to realize I haven't had any sleep for the last 48 hours or more, and I was really out of it. So I did not understand what he was asking me, other than where did you feel the pain? Exactly where you did that. Obviously he wanted to make sure that it was exactly in the place he did it. Obviously I couldn't see it, so he wanted to ensure that I was feeling it fine and he didn't touch a nerve or anything. Good. So I finally managed to communicate to him exactly what it was. He took everything out and started again after another contraction or another couple of them. And again, the same thing happened. I screamed, but at this point I was kind of expecting it, so I screamed less. However, Ryan couldn't take it anymore. He said, Helena, I'm getting a bit dizzy, I need to sit down. I'm like, sure, no problem, that's totally fine. At this point, that's all the information that I had. He then later told me that what was most scary to him was that the guy doing the epidural, he was shaking, his hand was shaking, he was sweating, and prior to that, he had been very jokingly, he had been flirting with one of the nurses, and he was he was not very professional. He made dirty jokes to me, and I mean, it was the whole thing with this guy was not very good. So he told me, like, he literally wanted to punch this guy in the face, and he had to remove himself from the scenario, which can happen, right? So Ryan went to sit down, and I got another 2 nurses with me, holding my hands and everything else. Then he tried to do the epidural again, and I got a shooting pain on my leg. Anyways, that was a whole thing. I think it lasted for like 20 minutes trying to get this thing right. And up to the point where I was like, either you get it right now or I just take the contractions, because at that point I had kind of learned what to expect, and was like, it was better. The contractions were better than the pain I was getting from the epidural. Thankfully he managed to get it right, and he started acting like really quick. Next contraction, I almost didn't feel it. I had to ask if I'm actually having a contraction. The contraction after that, I just guessed that I was having a contraction, but I could not really feel the pain. And the next contraction I did not feel at all. I went to sleep for 4 hours, which was really, really nice. 3 hours, I think. Yeah, something like 3 or 4 hours. Obviously I was getting checked every 15 minutes and to see how I was doing, to check on the monitor, to check the baby's heart rate, and that was waking me up, but not a lot. Every time they were coming to check, they kept saying the baby's heart rate is dropping. Baby's heart rate is dropping. They did not sound concerned about it, so I decided I did not want to get concerned, because I really needed to fall asleep. I really needed to rest. So I decided to trust them and be like, they're not worried, nothing's worrying, is there something we have to be aware of? Yeah, so around 3, I think it was 3:30 to be precise, they came in with the doctor, woke me up, say, Helena, the baby's heart rate is dropping. And I went like, oh, okay, turn around and kept sleeping. They shook my body, say, Helena, listen up. The baby's heart rate is dropping with every contraction. And I was like, whoa. Okay, now they're really waking me up. Now something is up. What is happening? So the doctor explained to me that what they think is happening is that I have probably very little to no water left, as it was flashing for the last 2 days. and the baby's head is hitting my pelvic bone with every contraction, and he's not taking that very well. They had checked me how many centimeters I was at that point. I was only 3 centimeters dilated, which was very little, and well, it was not very little, it was progress for the last hours, but at that rate I could have a very long labor ahead of me, and they did not know how the baby would take it. So they advised me to get a C-section, to which I said yes, of course. Like, if my baby is in any way, shape or form in danger, just get him out now. So that is what we did. We signed the papers, we called my mom, who we had sent away, as we didn't think it was gonna happen anytime soon. We called her, rushed to the hospital, we're getting a C-section. And 5 minutes later, I was in the operating theater, fully numbed, ready to go. C-section happened, was really quick. Within 10 minutes, my baby was out. We saw him. He looked amazing. It was the single most relieving moment of my whole life. And they took him to the little place to clean him up and check him up and whatever. Ryan went with the baby to cut the umbilical cord. At some point I'm like, it seems too long. I thought they would clean him quicker. And so I gently asked, when can I see my baby? And they said, yeah, your baby's dropping temperatures, so we need to warm him up. I'm like, oh, okay. And they're like, well, don't worry, it's gonna be fine. I'm like, okay. I really tried to not worry because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move. I could not go and see him. And I was freaking out. I was freaking out. I was trying to keep calm. I don't know how much time passed by, and I asked again, when can I see my baby? And they then, to which they said again, we are trying to warm him up. I'm like, that doesn't sound too good. Doesn't sound too good at all. I forgot about this, but I had heard him cry, so I knew he was alive. But it was very worrying to me that they were not bringing him up to me. And then one of the nurses told me, Ryan is really emotional, he's crying, he's been very emotional, which was really sweet to me, and I thought it was very nice. As Ryan is not like the person who shows his emotions the most. He does feel a lot of emotion, and I know that, but he doesn't really show it. So it was very sweet to me that he was actually showing it in front of all these people who he did not know. Finally, he was brought into my arms, healthy and safe, and I was the happiest person alive.